ようこそどうぞはじめまして
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Glorio Chat, the official reboot of the official podcast of the Glorio Blog. For our newer readers, we actually did used to have a podcast a couple years ago that was called Incoherent Babble. Zig did a great job on those, but we've been wanting to pick that back up again for a while now, and so here we are. So the new name, the Glorio Chat, it's based on our chat group that we all hang out on. And that's basically where the whole thing got started. You can read all about it in our About Glorio page. But just like the blog itself, we hope that we can bring some of the fun that we have talking amongst ourselves to the rest of our audience. And hopefully it's something that everybody will enjoy listening to. And so for our inaugural reboot episode, we wanted to keep things simple. We're going to talk a little bit about the current anime season, spring 2015. The season's... and I can't believe I'm saying this, but the season's already almost halfway over. So we have a good idea of what the shows are all about at this point, what's good or bad, or what's worth watching. So for our listeners out there that actually have a life and might not have been keeping up with these shows every week like we have, we just want to talk a bit about what we're watching and what's worth checking out, and hopefully that'll save you some time. So to help with that, I've got two members of our Glorio Team USA with me today. I've got Iro. Say hello.
Hi. Hello. And we're back.
We're back. Same response, even 2 years later, right? So Iro is currently covering the two of the big returning shows this season. We had the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. And he is of our living, breathing Type Moon encyclopedia. So if you're if you're into that kind of thing, definitely check out his posts for the full rundown on the Fate's Day Night adaptation. And then also with me today, I've got Marlin.
Yo.
Hi, Marlin. Marlin's watching a lot of things. He's kind of our workhorse. He usually watches more than any of us, and he's covering a lot of the shows in the roundup. And you can check out his band stories and the Sound Euphonium coverage. So definitely check that out.
Pretty much the only reason to watch that show at this point.
Yes, just for the band stories. I haven't even watched the latest episode, to be honest, but we'll get more into the shows themselves in a bit. So yeah, spring season. As I mentioned, we're well into it at this point. And what do you guys think about the season as a whole so far? Is it good, bad? I kind of think it's been a bit in the middle. Some of the shows, the good shows have been good, not great. Bad shows have been bad, but not super bad. But like I said, Marlon, you're watching more than any of us. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I've been enjoying myself actually a lot more than I did last season. And I don't know if it's just because there weren't as many terrible shows this season, and it's just like, because it started a huge low in the winter season for me, and it took a while for like the good shows to kind of bring me back into my humor. And there's like, I'd say at least 5 or 6 shows that I enjoy unabashedly, even if they're really dumb, like Soma.
Yes, we'll get to Soma for sure. Yeah, some of those shows last season were really bad, and we didn't really quite get any of those this season. There were a couple bad ones, but nothing on the level of...
I mean, are you saying Testament of Sister and Devil is not the pinnacle of all anime?
That is not going to be on the all-time great lists. Oh, man, that was bad. I don't know if that was worse with the World Break Aria something...
I'd say it's because of the second episode, because in the second episode they imply he has to like rape her or something in order to stop a curse. Something really stupid, and it was really gross. And yeah, it was. I can't believe I even brought myself to watch the second episode, because like I think someone said, "Oh, it's not that bad," and I was quickly proven wrong.
Yeah. And then there was the one where the girls literally wanted the D. But
Oh yeah.
Was that
At least that one was kind of.
was that
fun.
that season?
yes, that was also
Yeah,
last season.
that was just last season. There was so much garbage last season.
Good God,
You could not believe it.
So let's leave
Yeah.
that to die and move on then to
That's the
the
best.
stuff this season. If you're listening along and want to follow along with us, we're going to be looking at our list on the anime page. So you can go to our site, theglorioblog.com, and just click the anime button on the menu, and you'll see under Spring 2015 the shows we're talking about. And so to start, I figured we would just go real quick down the recycle bin list, and those are the shows that we did first impressions, maybe watched an episode or two, and then just decided to drop. So these are going to be the ones that we're basically saying don't bother with. Although there are probably a couple in here that you could debate. For the most part, they're probably going to be pretty.
Yeah. You could
pretty
debate
much,
whether or not you
skip.
should watch them, not whether or not they're worth talking about.
Yeah. So we'll just go through the list real quick. So under the recycle bin, first up we got Etotama, and that was the one about a cat girl that wants to be part of the Chinese zodiac. It was super moe and kind of it kind of had some gross fan service in it because the cat girl looks like she's 8 years old.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's probably the big problem, right? Like if they just had them all look like, like not children, then maybe it would be a little less gross.
Yep. Yeah,
Like-
and it actually did have surprisingly decent CG sequences.
Yeah, like I liked their idea that they didn't have the budget for actual like 2D drawn fight scenes, so they went with this super deformed style where it's so divorced from the normal anime that they could get away with everything being CG, and like how they go to a different world. I think that was a good way. Obviously there's budget reasons why they had to do that, but it made it look cooler
Right.
than I thought it would.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it felt like they could have made something out of it, but kind of gross power fantasy stuff in there with the naked little girls.
Right.
And whatnot.
Yeah, that was
So
pretty
that's a pass on that one.
bad.
Moving on, we've got, as we mentioned, Food Wars. Shokugeki no Soma.
Still the stupidest title.
I mean, it's kind of what it means, right? There's like food fight. Actually, food fight probably would have been way better now that I think about it.
Well, what was your... Because Iroh covered
Oh,
it
yeah.
years ago for Random Manga Theater, and what was your
I put,
localized
like,
title?
I think it was like Soma's dinner drama or something.
Yeah. So I think the
Which-
problem with that title is that it only works for the first episode, because he makes food, but he makes it in a culinary school, so you can't say he's making dinner every time.
Right.
Yeah.
As far as that show goes, I didn't watch it, so I'll have to defer to you guys. I don't know, Iroh, do you want to give us a quick rundown of what the show is about?
It's about cooking, I guess. This guy's good at cooking and goes to culinary school, super anime culinary school,
Oh yeah.
and then they make food and have food duels, and everybody gets naked when they eat the food.
Yeah, that is the big complaint about the show, but it's it's so dumb, I can't really take it as sexual, because for one, I think it's actually kind of fair both ways, because there's always guys and girls trying the food, and it's not it's only the girls that have these foodgasms or whatever you want to call it. And it's kind of just a fun show to turn your mind off for me for a half hour. Usually I don't try and do these shows, but every once in a while, Dog Days or some stupid show like that'll come along, and I'll be yeah, I can get behind watching this 20 minutes just to have some fun, because it is a fun show. I think it's not a show if you want to think about anything, because it's mostly just people saying, oh, I prepared this dish, and oh, it's amazing, or oh, it's got this weird texture, and that it tastes like having a hippopotamus go across a railroad. It was really weird. There's a hippopotamus going across a railroad crossing after a girl comes out of scuba gear.
Or the other one where, it tastes like I'm being groped by squid tentacles.
Right.
Show you a
that one was
convenient visual.
That was
Convenient
bad.
visual representation.
That was super bad. Yeah, like I can't make any excuses for that. But
Is it
I
basically
think
like
the
a
food parts are actually really good. Like he's probably the writer's probably throwing in some BS in some places, but it actually seems like they've studied like cooking techniques and like made reasonable like magic cooking skills that they learn or something. Well, not magic, like it's based on actual cooking techniques, but that they just spice it up so that it seems really fantastic.
Spice it up.
That wasn't intentional,
is
but
that
I'll
a
take it.
catchphrase?
Yes.
Wow.
The entire ending is just about like, yeah, the ending song is about spice. It
Alright.
has like the greatest looking dessert I've ever seen. It's like
He who
vanilla
controls
and
the spice.
caramel.
So- Is it basically like a battle shonen thing,
It's
but
it's basically a
with
shonen
food?
battle show with food.
and people's clothes explode?
Yeah.
All right. That actually does sound kind of fun, I'm not going to lie. But we are currently not covering it. Are you still watching it, Marlin?
Yeah, I've been thinking to put it in the roundup. It's just like I don't know how much I can talk about. Oh, hey, this was fun but dumb every week. You know, I can only do that so much.
They shouted a bunch of things and then people's clothes exploded.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I mean, that's
So-
every episode so far, and they've done it in new and dumb ways every time. But
All right. So that might be worth checking out, and your mileage may vary on that one.
mhm.
All right. So moving along, Gunslinger Stratos. Now this one, I'm not gonna lie, I completely forgot existed until I looked at the list again this morning.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about it too.
This was the arcade game adaptation that loosely had Urobuchi's name attached to it. There was something about time travel and people playing paintball with lightsabers. I really don't have too much else to say on it. It was super boring and looked awful. I do remember that. I don't know. Do you guys have anything to add on that one?
I remember that also.
I
mean,
didn't
there was
see it
the-
actually.
There was
a
like
show.
that 30-second like fight where you have like super buff Jotaro fighting a giant robot.
Oh, right. That was like the one good part in the entire thing.
Yeah.
Where it was like the delinquent guy punching a robot or something. So
Yep.
It
So,
had
yeah.
that,
So
and yet
more
like you guys
like
all hated it.
yeah,
Yep.
more like boring milquetoast protagonists.
yeah, it had
And-
like the cool emotions.
I'd rather be a sheep.
Yeah,
Oh right, I remember that now.
yeah. So don't waste your time on that one. Probably fair to say.
Yeah.
Now the next one is probably at least worth talking about,
Oh yeah.
as it is the flavor of the week with the 4chan crowd. Is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon? And if you'd like, I can try for everyone's amusement to read the title.
Go ahead.
Actually, I have not practiced this at all. I'm doing this cold. Danjon ni Dei o Motomeru wa... I give up.
Yeah, we're going back to the old get an LN that has a name that's 5 miles long, huh? I thought we were finally done with those. Like they'd stopped coming in. There were still light novels, but they were at least, you know, they were all terrible, but they at least didn't have those giant names. And now Dungeon is coming to play this season, and Snafu came back this season. So
Yeah. Yeah, there actually weren't. This was probably one of the, like, we had so many light novels last season. There wasn't really that many this season, but this was one of them, as you can tell by the title.
Oh yeah.
But the general idea on this one, well, I mean, it kind of explains it in the title, but it's kind of a fantasy setting with some game RPG elements thrown in there, and the main guy wants to rescue a pretty girl in the dungeon so she can fall in love with him, and that's pretty much the gist of the thing. And he also has a super obnoxious goddess as his companion that everybody on 4chan and other pockets of otaku fandom have been losing their mind over, for lack of a better term.
For no reason either.
It's the boob string.
But what makes it so special?
It's I just don't get it. But
yeah, I don't get it either.
It was kind of interesting as with this in that I was expecting it to be a lot worse than it actually was.
That's definitely true.
And it had some interesting ideas, but with like the world mechanics and stuff. But what did you guys think about it?
I thought actually for a first episode it didn't seem too bad. Like, the guy still is super dumb as a main character, and it's like, oh, he gets this special ability that makes him grow nonstop, and it's going to make him super awesome eventually, I imagine. But in the beginning, he's just kind of this sad sap, and everyone knows he's a sad sap, and I kind of liked that for once that they acknowledged that the MC is just like a loser. It's not like everyone's kissing the ground he walks upon, like in your Sword Art Online or something like that.
Right. Yeah, he wasn't a walking anime Jesus like Kirito or any of those other characters. So, yeah, I mean, it had some cool stuff going on. Like I said, the world mechanic stuff I thought was could have been interesting in a different plot line.
Mm-hmm.
But just the whole wanting to rescue the girl in the dungeon,
right?
And of course all the girls are immediately falling in love with him.
Yeah,
including what's the goddess name? Hestia.
Yeah, Hestia,
who's throwing herself at him the entire time, and a lot of like gross camera angles, and of course the stupidity of the boob string.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a lot of that just left bad taste in my mouth. But
yep.
What do you think?
Like that show would be good if it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
A profound statement.
I think I finally understand kind of why it got a bit more popular than we thought too. Because like I guess if you look at the manga, at the very least, the manga is absolutely awful. Like there, basically all the good characterization you saw in the first episode was completely like not in the manga at all. The manga just made it seem like Hestia was only there to like grovel at his feet. There was no like she still does that a lot in the first episode, but that's not the only thing she does. She still like has an inner monologue about caring about him. But in the manga, it's just like she keeps like jumping on him and stuff like that.
Right.
And I think I finally understand. It's just like it's that little bit good enough for teenagers to latch onto it, and it's just like Sword Art Online. I think.
Right. But with more boobs.
Yeah, I guess with more boobs, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of an interesting show. Probably not worth watching, but they at least tried. Unlike our next entry, Magical Girl Lyrical Nanoha Vivid, which is based on the spin-off manga about Nanoha and Fate's common law marriage adopted daughter, who is only 10 years old. So it's...
I mean, until she transforms.
Right.
Suddenly becomes 18.
The initial premise is the little girl, magical girl type show, and it gets super creepy. I have to say that it is impressive that they found a new way to be super creepy about it.
Yeah, I wonder if it makes it like better or worse. Because like I don't know, I always felt the old way that Nanoha was creepy was still pretty creepy in its own way.
Well, the fact that she transforms into an adult but retains the mind of a 10-year-old kind of makes it creepier in my book.
Yeah, they did the same thing in Vivid Dread.
That's not really helping the case.
It's not really helping the case, but I wonder if that's just something that is going to become popular. Because that was a magical girl show too, and yeah, like the idea was they would power up and then they'd become like 10 years older or 5 years older or something like that.
But they'd like combine together like Dragon Ball.
Oh yeah,
style,
they'd come into two people, right?
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's probably another one you can safely skip unless you're obsessed with Nanoha, because it was creepy and looked like garbage. And
the punch magic's pretty cool though.
Yeah, punch magic is cool, but
yeah, punch people.
Surely there must be somewhere else we can get our punch magic fix.
It's true.
Yes, I wonder where.
So continuing in the creepy theme here, our next huge disappointment is Punchline.
Oh, God damn it.
Yeah, that
Son of a
I
bitch.
can't believe how much wasted potential there is in that show.
As Iroh swears under his breath. But of course, Punchline is the anime original project by what's his name?
Kotaro Uchikoshi?
And
think.
he is behind the author of the visual novel Ever 17, and also is it called the Zero Escape series? Is that the whole?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so like 999, Virtue's Last Reward, all of which are deadly serious for the most part. So it was a bit of a shock coming into Punchline when it's basically a weird comedy about a disembodied boy who destroys the world if he sees panties.
Yeah. And it's like that first episode is just the tip of the terrible iceberg. Because I don't know why, but I watched the second episode just to see if there was any glimmer of hope. And no, they just grind any kind of goodwill into the dust by the second episode. Because like in the first episode, there's actually some good jokes. Like there's actually some punchlines.
Right.
But in the second episode, they recycle jokes from the first episode. Like when the cat's looking at cat porn, they do that again in the second episode. And I'm like, really? You're that you have that little material to go on, and the rest of the episode is just either boring or disgusting, and it lost all faith for me that it could get better at any point.
Don't forget that's racist.
Oh right, yeah, that happened.
Oh yeah, what was the deal with that?
It's like in all the pre-release stuff, one of the girls was a like anime tan, I guess.
That's right. She had the dark skin or whatever, and
Right. And then they just changed it with like no explanation.
Good times.
Yeah.
Now she's white.
And now she's
really weird.
Generic white anime girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the kind of a shame as we all were holding on hope that, I mean, it's not like they didn't try to warn us. All the promo material basically explained exactly what the show was about.
Yeah.
I think we were all holding on to hope that it was going to be some kind of twist to it or something, and so far that has not proven.
We were all just delusional.
Yeah.
We wanted to see something where it wasn't that.
Would it? Yeah. Well, definitely not a Zero Escape anime, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Would that even work? I mean,
no, because like gameplay is a central function to those games, and like without it, it's just. I mean, it's a good story, but you can't tell it the same way.
Right. Yeah. Well. Anyway, that was a big disappointment, and hopefully we can forget that exists and move on. Next one on the list, Rainy Coco. That was actually turned out to be a short about pretty boys running a cafe. Me and Artemis watched that, and even though it was only 2 minutes long, I still thought it was incredibly boring. So you can go ahead and skip that one.
Yeah. Same with Raycon. I watched 5 minutes of that, and I just couldn't stand it.
Yeah, Raycon was also super boring, except that I did sit through the entire 22 minutes or whatever. Took one for the team.
Everyone has to at some point.
Yeah, that was that's about. I don't even remember what it was about hardly at this point. I guess the girl could see supernatural creatures or something, and
right,
she meets some other girl that hates supernatural things, but they're probably going to make out at some point. And, the most memorable thing about that show was the awful background work.
Oh, was that the one where they were all like filtered photos?
Yeah, there was like filtered photos and like really bad like texture tiles and. Like,
and the window eyes.
Oh, and the window eyes, yeah. Yeah, it looked terrible.
What exactly are window eyes?
Or the window hair, like their eyes went over.
Oh, right.
Yeah, where they
looked really dumb.
No attempt to mask the eyes through the hair. Yeah, I mean overall it was actually kind of sweet and cute, I guess, but it was so boring and so ugly that I had no desire to watch more of that.
Yeah.
So that's another easy skip. The next one is actually not an easy skip because I actually enjoyed it. I haven't had time to watch any more of it, and that's the Rin-ne or Kyokai no Rin-ne. and that's the latest anime based on the manga by I can't remember her name now. The author of Ranma Half and Inuyasha.
You can sure tell it.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it. But I actually thought it was kind of funny and kind of a nice show.
Yeah, it
but
seemed cute. It wasn't enough for me.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of Noragami.
Not
Right.
cute enough for me.
Well, just like it was kind of inoffensively cute, and
Yeah.
and I guess kind of knowing it was from the Inuyasha author, I just could only see one way that relationship could go, and that is in locksteady, like 2 lines going to an infinite point forever, like just like every show she's made.
Yeah. But yeah, that one was actually, it was another girl that can see supernatural things, ironically, and nobody else can. And she sees that one of her classmates is actually a, what do you call the god of
Yokai?
death?
Kind of like a Shinigami.
Shikigamis, yeah.
Soul Reaper.
Yeah, and but
Sorry.
it kind of reminded me of Noragami, because he's kind of like poor and pathetic and walks around in a tracksuit.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was actually kind of cute and funny, but like you said, you kind of know where it's going. It's not really, probably just going to end up spinning its wheels, but it might be worth checking out if you're a fan of her previous stuff.
Right.
It certainly wasn't bad, like some of this other stuff on the list, so.
Yeah.
Like our next show. Seraph of the End, or Owari no Seraph, which tries to be super dark with as many days as possible.
And fails so bad.
I'm gonna kill all the vampires.
Yeah, so that one is, what was it, like there's like a disease or something that kills all the adults, and then the vampires come out and round up all the kids to harvest their blood or something, and
in itself is a pretty decent premise.
Yeah, that's you could work with that. That's something you can work with, but it was almost like laughably over the top with like it basically just teenage angst revenge porn.
Yes.
That's how I would sum it up. Especially the big, because the first episode's kind of a flashback. Did either of you watch any more of it after that?
No, but I read the manga further back in the day.
Actually, I haven't seen any of it.
So I'm
like
assuming
he gets picked up by the Resistance, and then they make him go to high school, where he learns how to fight vampires.
This is the thing I kind of hate about 90% of anime, that they can have all these great premises, and then at the end of the day, they get thrown into a high school, like a high school for blank, when they could just be doing what the premise is about.
Yeah, I would think if the world was overrun by vampires and there were no adults left, and you were training to fight them, that learning advanced math or something like that would not be a priority.
Sit in the back row next to the window, stare longingly outside, and dream of when you can kill all the vampires.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of teenage angst, revenge porn. But yeah. So that one, it did look nice. I'll give them that.
Well, it's Wit Studio, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll probably look nice for like one more episode, and then.
Probably.
Yeah, I haven't heard. We're on like 6 episodes in, right?
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about it being particularly good or bad.
Yeah,
the Rolling Girls sure crashed and burned.
Oh yeah, it was like by the third arc, the things just started looking really fugly.
Yeah. But that was sad because I liked Rolling Girls.
Yeah, not so much for me by the end, but I just kind of wish the whole package in general was better by the end of it.
Yeah, I liked a lot of what they did. Obviously, it was not a perfect show, but I feel like most of the problems probably were on technical limitations. But that was last season. Yeah, so Seraph of the End, we can probably safely skip that one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Show by Rock. Now, I don't think either of you guys watched that, did you?
I got warned well enough ahead of time.
Yeah. So I'll just give you the quick rundown on that one. There's basically Sanrio, who is the Hello Kitty people, decided they wanted to get some otaku money. So, and this is 100% true. So they made a mobile music game with like cat maids and pretty much any other moe thing you can think of. And this is the anime adaptation of that mobile game. Okay. It almost felt like a parody. It was like so on the nose. Like the main girl, you know, who looks like she's 12 or something, gets sucked into the music game, and she turns into a cat girl maid with a guitar and tries to start a band, and and says "nya" at the end of all her sentences.
Oh God, that would drive me crazy.
So, yeah, it's like the people at Sanrio like held a focus group of, you know, rounded up some otaku and had them say the kind of things they wanted to see in a show and threw them in there. That also actually had some of the decent CG work, a lot like Etotama too, though. Although that almost made it creepier because then they all turned into little like Sanrio characters. So,
oh really?
So, yeah,
that's weird.
Like she turns into like an actual little white cat.
Oh,
so they cover the furry demographic too, which we know. I'm sure there's a lot of overlap. But yeah, that's another one you can skip. And then next up on our list, Ultimate Otaku Teacher, or Denpa Kyoshi, which might have been my pick for worst show of the season.
I still prefer the title we came up with.
Yeah, our title was way better.
Yes.
The eccentric teacher.
Yes. Because if we all remember from, what was it, Denpa Ona or whatever, that other show?
Oh, yeah.
That Denpa word. It's like the electromagnetic or whatever, electromagnetic wave or something, so...
Yeah, like, I think the English release of that was pretty good. Like, I think it was like Earth to Psychoelectric Girl or something weird like that.
Yeah, it was a play on like a song title or something like that.
Yeah, but Denpa Kyoshi was terrible.
God, it was bad.
It's like if it starred, like, so what I didn't get about it is that like the guy is apparently a Nobel laureate by the way, at the age of 19 or something, and he like his family somehow drags him into becoming a high school teacher part-time. And like if a guy is smart enough where he can become a Nobel laureate and invent, like, didn't he say he invented teleportation just like they didn't have the technological like machinery to make it?
Yes.
And
they did say
like
that.
Why isn't he just selling patents to his ideas or something like that? Like, if he can invent that kind of thing, it would be worth millions of dollars. And like I said, you get $1 million for winning the Nobel Prize. So why is his family all up in his grill, for one? And for two, why is that show just so ugly and terrible?
God, that was ugly.
Like, everything about it, like, yeah, the animation, the directing, the plot, it's just absolutely awful.
But Marlin, you're forgetting he has a disease where he only does what he wants to do. And what he wants to do is watch anime and write about it on his blog.
The disease called being a selfish bastard?
Yeah. And
doesn't he also, like, expose his students' personal information on the internet?
No, he fakes that he doesn't.
Oh.
Because
that's okay.
Yeah. They make it like a big hero moment. Oh, I've just exposed your information to the internet. And then he's like, haha, I just somehow made a website that fully mimics Nico Nico. And it was really dumb.
Yeah. Well, that's also a definite don't watch on that one. Probably the worst show. It was total power fantasy, especially when he meets the cute girl that wants to be an anime voice actress. Oh god, that's really bad.
Yeah, that was really stupid.
Let's just move on. Wish Upon the Pleiades? Is that how you say that?
Pleiades.
Pleiades. I've never actually tried to say that word out loud.
Yeah.
So that's just the continuation of the Gainax Subaru car commercial that they made a couple years ago, and they decided for some reason to make a full series out of it.
Her name's actually Subaru.
Yep.
Yes, the main girl is actually named Subaru.
And their magic sticks still make car noises.
Yes.
For some fucking
as,
reason.
As G pointed out, that's the only good thing about that show, because otherwise it's the most bland, generic. There wasn't even a plot. There was just a bunch of girls.
They're looking for the magic crystal pieces to make the alien go home.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so unless you want to watch 6 hours of car commercial, you can just skip that one. So that wraps it up for the Recycle Bin shows. Probably only one or two in there, like maybe Food Wars or Rin-ne, that would be even worth checking out. The rest of them, just ignore those. Moving on, we have our shows that are in the roundup. So now we're getting to stuff that's actually good enough for us to write about every week. And first on the list we have the disappearance of Nagato Yuki-chan, or Moe Nagato as we always call it.
I mean, it's the only way to call it in my book.
Yeah, it's definitely
way more to the point.
Only appropriate title for that. And that, of course, is based off the spin-off manga that spins off the Haruhi series.
Right.
And it's kind of... Marlin, you've read the manga, right? So it's more of a gag thing?
Yeah, I've read it up until the point where the anime is actually, like, right now. So, like, after now, it's going to be new territory. But from what I read, it was, like, at the time, just, like, a really sweet, inoffensive, like, rom-com. Basically, if you took the entire Haruhi premise and took all the supernatural stuff out of it, it's pretty much intact.
So it's a harem show, is what you're saying.
Well, no. Okay, so the big difference is it's a love triangle, not a harem, because Mikuru isn't really in the picture. She's more of just like a comic relief character. It's, you know, Yuki first is into Kyon, and they're like in the literature club together. And then they bump into Haruhi and get to know her, and then she like sneaks into their school by like stealing a gym uniform or something like that, or I think like borrowing it at the very least. And so it's like they find a way to bring Haruhi into their school, even though she's supposed to be at a different one in this timeline. And now it's always like they basically admitted in this episode that Haruhi is into him, and she kind of messed with Valentine's Day to like, yeah, it's a little more complicated than I thought it would be. I like it. I mean, it's still it's a little derivative at some points. Like,
oh, that's right.
Like Yuki runs away after so she made chocolate for Valentine's Day. You know, typical romance thing. And like she goes into the club room and Haruhi is giving Kyon chocolate, and so she like runs away, and like everyone's like, "Oh shit!" I should probably stop swearing, but you know, they react to it as if she, you know, was running away like because, you know, she was sad, but they're saying that she just wanted to get out of their way because she thought it would be awkward if she stood there while she was giving him chocolate. So, like, what was some actual good development of watching these characters say, like, yeah, maybe I was messing with him, but Haruhi was basically like, maybe I was doing it intentionally, but I have feelings for him too, and that's why I wanted to do it. And then at the end, it's like Yuki's like, oh, that wasn't the reason why I ran away at all, and it just made the whole thing seem like inconsequential.
So basically, it's the loud and energetic Haruhi versus the shy and meek Yuki in a love triangle.
Yes.
And it's probably not going to go anywhere.
Probably. Actually, most definitely. Like, I would be super surprised if it ever went anywhere.
And it is, and I mean, it is based on the disappearance timeline.
Right.
So it's like you said, there's none of the cool stuff is in there.
Like Asakura or whatever her name is, the one that went psycho and tried to murder Kyon, is actually like just her friend now, and is like basically her guardian of sorts. Like cooks her food, cleans her clothes, stuff like that.
Right. So
it's really weird.
You'll probably be disappointed if you're expecting Haruhi season 3, but
it's like I said, I think in the first look, if you're expecting anything other than like a cute show with like a spin on characters you already know, you're looking in the wrong place.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, it's I know I personally didn't have the patience for it, but I can understand the appeal of it. It was kind of cute and funny. So,
Right.
Okay, so moving down the list, next up we've got the heroic legend of Arslan, and I've only watched the first episode of this. Have you been keeping up with this, Marlin?
So I'm almost caught up. I think I still need to watch this week's episode, but I like it. You can very much tell that like all the character models are, from the writer or the artist of Full Metal Alchemist. But so far I've liked the idea is, there's this fake Persia that's coming under attack from kind of it's almost like a pseudo-European country. And at this point it's all about the chaos caused by this battle where the king was killed. And,
Right.
like Arslan was driven into exile because like the king, there was like the people who were basically plotting against the king created this misunderstanding that made him seem like a coward. And so like, there's big unrest in the country. And I liked this plot line of, had nothing to do with high schools, nothing to do with even Japan, because it's, a pseudo medieval setting versus with like pseudo Persians versus pseudo Europeans.
Right. Yeah, I kind of liked that it was at least in the first episode, it was kind of more of a flashback kind of prologue thing, because I think they time skip after the first episode, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I liked the whole setting was very unique, something that we haven't really seen or don't see too much, and I kind of like the more kind of political intrigue sort of focus, and just getting out of high school in general, like you said. Did you
Right.
did you end up watching this, Iro? Or
I watched the first episode and thought it was okay, and I've been like meaning to get around to watching more and have not.
right?
I felt like it was kind of slow.
A little bit.
Like
I'd
in
compare it a lot to
theory,
Yona.
right? Artemis liked Yona, and she likes this one too.
I think it is a little faster than Yona though. Like Yona took forever. Like at least in this episode, having people fight stuff or fight an army is actually happening on screen. Like in Yona, they kind of like
Montage.
like her father gets killed, and she's taken out of the castle and she has to go on the run. And then the next episode is basically just a huge flashback to when they're children. And I guess like maybe we need the context, but it's kind of a mood breaker to go to from this big action scene to, oh, we're cute children, even though one of us is going to grow up to murder your father. And then they spent 3 episodes in the same place. Like
Right.
yeah, it just was way too slow for me. And
But
this
Yona,
is seeming like a bit of a faster show.
did Yona go for like 3 seasons or something, or is it still going?
I
or
think
something?
only 2.
It was
I can't remember though.
at least
Have to
2,
ask
right?
Marcus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was 26 episodes.
So and that was what was the full title? Yona of the Dawn or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a different take if you're looking for something outside of the Japanese high school setting, and I know I'd like to catch up with it at some point. Artemis is the one that's been on the ball with it, so we'll have to defer to her opinion on that one, and she seems to like it.
Yeah.
Next up is my sleeper hit of the season, Mikagura School Suite. This is the other Dogakobo show, as they're also doing Plastic Memories. So this is like their B team side project.
Right.
And it's based off of a
Right.
light novel series that is based off of a series of Vocaloid songs. But wait, let me finish.
All right.
Before you run away screaming, everyone. I actually like a lot of what they're doing with it. It's the general premise is pretty cool. It's about this girl that goes to this school where the various cultural clubs have to fight each other for better accommodations and food and whatnot. But that actually kind of sounds kind of dark when you say it like that. But it's actually very colorful and bright and kind of silly. There's a lot of really creative things going on with it. Not a lot of substance, maybe, but yeah, I kind of like it. You guys are both still watching, right?
Yeah.
I actually still haven't watched since the second episode because something about it. I don't know. I felt like I needed more confirmation that it was good because I feel like you guys have been saying, like it's still good, but like there's always something
Oh
that
yeah.
seems a little off
You know,
each episode, right?
When they start fighting, it's pretty cool. But every other minute of that show is like infuriating high school typical stuff, and it's really tedious to watch.
Yeah, the main character is a little tough to swallow. She's basically what would be the best way to
Crazed
say?
lesbian.
What was that, Iro?
Crazed lesbian.
Yes, she's a crazed lesbian. So,
Yes.
like her entire reason for choosing the high school she goes to is because she sees a hot girl in the brochure that her cousin gives her and says, "I want to make out with that girl" or something. And that's how she ends up going there. And pretty much most of the show is her freaking out over cute girls and trying to grope them and stuff. So that can get a little overbearing, but I think she also has kind of good qualities to her as well. I do like that she punches things. And as Iro said, the fights are really cool. It's probably a lot better. I guess overall I'd say it's a lot better in concept than execution, but I like the concept at least.
I just think that we're allowing a lot of excuses for a character just because she's a girl.
Yeah,
Being alleged.
if she were male, then it would be the worst.
Right. It'd be like High School DxD or something like that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that for the most part. I think personally, because she's still kind of, I guess you could say she's still kind of innocent about it, but yeah, I see what you guys are saying for sure. There's kind of almost a double standard on it.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned that in the last post that it's definitely worth noting the difference on there, but I still think it's kind of worth checking out as a creatively interesting thing to watch, and the fights are pretty cool, especially last week.
Mm-hmm.
With the can we officially confirm that was a
Sengoku
Basara reference in the last
really?
fight? Yeah, we'll just leave it at that, and everybody should probably just go check out, even if you just check out that fight. Go check that out.
Might
From
have to check out that fight.
Was it episode 4? I think.
Maybe.
Whatever the last round is.
Yeah, I think it's episode 4.
Yeah, let's go with 4.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it's worth checking out. Next one on the list is definitely worth checking out, and one of our favorite shows of the season, My Love Story, or Ore Monogatari.
Both really boring names.
Yes, both, whether in English or Japanese, very boring names, but really, really cute show. Kind of puts the whole... I don't want to spoil too much, but basically it's about this really huge guy that, growing up, none of the girls liked him, but they always liked his hot best friend. And he meets this girl and falls in love with this girl, and basically it's, his love story. I guess we'll probably leave it at that because I don't want to really spoil anything.
Yeah, it's the most adorable thing I've watched in a long time, I think.
Yeah.
It's a little unfortunate that there's all of these weird spots about it. Like, in one episode, he picks up an I-beam that's about to crush her. And it's like, I mean, I guess the idea he's supposed to be this huge dude, but he keeps doing these ridiculous things. And it's so weird.
Yeah, he occasionally has like these superhuman feats of strength that don't make any sense in the context of, because otherwise, I mean, nobody has any superpowers or anything. Otherwise, it's just a normal modern day Japan, and they kind of exaggerate some of his heroic efforts. But But yeah, I mean, it's really cute. Not just the romance aspect, but even just the his friend Suna gets already as a lock for Marlin's Golden Iskandar Bro of the Year award.
Oh yeah, because like just all in I think it's the third episode, he talks about just how he would always have Takeo's back because that's what friends do. That's what he says, and I feel like that's a really like that's a really great line just by itself. That doing good things for your friends is what you're supposed to do, right?
Yeah,
and it's like just it's not even a big deal for him.
Yeah, and again, we don't really want to spoil the circumstances, but just watch it, everybody, and you kind of get once you get the context of it, you can definitely understand.
It's
why
like
he gets...
your heart will burst. You can feel it inside your chest, or at least if you're like me.
Yes, like I kept saying, it's a salve for my cold dead heart. Definitely one of the better shows this season. Our next show is a little more divisive, to say the least. Trigger's next attempt to save anime is Ninja Slayer. Now, I don't know how to actually make the noise, the whatever noise.
Yeah!
Yeah! He's like, yeah!
But... yeah, so Ninja Slayer is a ninja, and he slays other ninjas. That's probably all there is to say about the plot on that one.
Then, the latest episode is they're all part 1 of 2 or something, and then Ninja Slayer doesn't even show up, and it's all about some high school girl who was possessed by a different ninja and to save her friend or whatever.
Right.
And it was kind of slow and dark.
Yeah. There were 2 ninja spirits in that episode.
Right.
So is there more than one Ninja Slayer?
Yeah.
No.
Or, well, I think that's the only one that's called Ninja Slayer, but there's more than one ninja spirit that is like Ninja Slayer.
Right. Her name is Sayonara. Right? Was that what it was?
I think so. Or... No. It was something to do with ninjas and death. Or it was Shin Ninja or something. Either way, it was super dumb. But that show is just the kind of dumb I can get behind. I was always the biggest lover of Inferno Cop. Beyond any irony, I literally just enjoyed that show because it was so stupid. And it's the same thing. And I know people were expecting more, but I'm fine with what it is.
Yeah, so I went to Anime Expo last year, and I went to the Trigger panel, where they were making a huge show of our upcoming anime Ninja Slayer, and selling merchandise for it, and et cetera, et cetera. And then it turns out it's just like Inferno Cop. It's kind of a letdown.
Yeah, I have to say the flags went off in my brain when they announced a week before the show aired that it was going to be 15 minutes long instead of the full episode. But even then they were like, oh, but it's good. We're going to be packing in so much animation, and then they go to the Inferno Cop cardboard cutout finger puppet guys.
Right. And which I still think is the greatest thing ever.
See, my thing with that is, and I didn't like Inferno Cop, but I got it. I understood why people liked it, and it was just little 2-minute, because it was 2 minutes, right, Marlin?
Right.
Yeah, it was a little 2-minute burst
of a minute and a half outro song.
Right. So it's 30 seconds of little finger puppets, and it was silly and dumb and great.
Yeah.
And but that was so unique to Inferno Cop that I just felt kind of cheap to attach it onto another production the way they have. I don't know. But I have to say, because I haven't watched the latest episode, but I actually somehow still am watching Ninja Slayer. I guess because it's not really a huge commitment or anything. And I am kind of enjoying it in a weird sort of way. But, yeah, I feel like it could have been a lot more than what they're making it out to be.
I don't know if it could have. It's what do you do with that plot? The plot is the guy almost gets killed and his family is murdered, and he gets possessed by a ninja spirit and goes and kills ninjas. How much could you really do with that plot other than just make it this week he gets attacked by this spirit, and then he kills him, which is what happens here. But what makes it work for me is the idea is that like they'll transition from this decent quality animation, and then there'll just be the stick figures flying at each other, and then there's just like the scene where all the cops like rain down on that guy, and he's like, "Oh my Buddha!"
Yeah, if
there's a comedy you can achieve with that, and I think the biggest reason why it resonates with me is because, like, I used to be big into the Flash animating community, and that's basically what this is.
Yes.
You're not really going to understand unless you've watched a lot of really crappy, really poorly tweened Flash animations.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did watch Inferno Cup. So
It does look like something that would have been on Newgrounds in 2005, but
oh, certainly.
Yeah, I even if they just animated the whole thing, like if the whole thing just had awesome animation all throughout, I wouldn't care if the plot was stupid or whatever. I just feel like we kind of got cheated on it. And like Iro said, they did really hype it up and everything, like it was going to be their next big save anime follow-up to Kill the Kill.
Yeah, that's true.
So, is that our fault because of the expectations? Maybe. I don't know. But still kind of disappointed.
Right.
Yet I'm still watching it, so I guess I can't really talk too much about it on that regard.
Mm.
Speaking of disappointing shows that I'm still watching, and that the last show on our roundup list is Plastic Memories, and I think both of you guys quit out on this one, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
after
on
the
my own.
episode where you got to move in with him.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that one was just terrible.
Yeah. So basically, with that one, that's Doga Kobo's big anime original project, written by the guy that wrote Steins Gate. Whole big, top-notch production. They're sinking tons of money into this thing. Looks beautiful, and it just sucks. I'm sorry. The first episode was pretty good, and I thought it had some good promise. And the premise is kind of interesting.
The problems, you could see them creeping in through the cracks even in the first episode.
Yeah, that is true, but there was still a glimmer of hope in the beginning. And the premise itself was kind of interesting because it's about these androids or robots or whatever that have this set 9-year lifespan, and they're pretty much indiscernible from humans. But after that 9 years, they have to shut them down, and it's kind of it is kind of a cheap formula for built-in tragedy,
right?
But it still had a lot of potential, I think, for some good storytelling, and it after the first episode, it just kind of falls apart into just like these.
They just never utilize.
Yeah,
like
it just turns into like
they have.
It just turns into a key anime basically,
right?
With lots of stereotyped girls, like the one like the main human girl is that I keep calling not Asuka, is like the most insufferable generic tsundere girl ever, and yeah, and then like the point where you guys bailed out was when, for ridiculous nonsense reasons, he has to move in with the main love interest, and there's all the awkward sharing an apartment anime scenes, and it's actually gotten to the point where it's might have reduced my opinion of Steins Gate since it's the same writer.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
Because here's why. Because I was just thinking about this the other day. Here's why. Because in Steins Gate, there's a lot of those types of characters, but it kind of made sense because of the setting. Because the whole thing takes place in Akihabara. So the fact that there's maid cafes and otaku running around, and that kind of made sense with the setting. And they're all like super chunibyo and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we get over to Plastic Memories, some of those things are being applied to this different setting, and I'm like, is this all that this guy knows how to write? Or, I don't know.
Is it the same writer for that as for, like, Chaos Head and Robotics Notes?
Yes.
Because if so, it could just be that he made one good show. Because Robotics Notes definitely wasn't very good.
Well, think about, too, like, because Chaos Head is all about a otaku guy, right?
Right.
And
I guess Robotics Notes is about an otaku girl.
right. So I mean, maybe that's just all he knows. Maybe he's like the key guy, Jun Maeda, and just knows like one type of story to write.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it's been a big disappointment. I mean, it hasn't been. I guess it's been good enough where I'm still watching it. I mean, it hasn't been particularly like offensive or anything, but it's been getting tougher every week to work up the motivation to watch it for sure. So yeah, I mean, that's another one your mileage might vary on. So that pretty much wraps up the roundup shows, and we just have a couple left as far as the shows that we're actually doing the full weekly coverage on.
Well, or whenever whenever a JoJo fight ends,
or bi-weekly. Let's say regular coverage.
Sure,
regular
that works.
Individual coverage.
Right.
The first being the undisputed champion of the spring 2015 season, Blood Blockade Battlefront.
Bloodborne Bolognese.
Bloodborne Bolognese. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. I think Aqua had the new pornographers reference in there that I liked. The Brill Bruisers Breakdance or something. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you're wondering what we're talking about, that was in the first look post. Rather than abbreviating Blood Blockade Battlefront, Aqua decided to pick 3 other random B words for every time you mentioned the title. It's pretty amusing, so definitely go check that out. But yeah, Blood Blockade Battlefront is pretty rad. The general concept is it's like a portal or something opens up over New York City, and all kinds of monsters and supernatural powers and stuff come out the portal, and it's up to this super cool organization of superpowered people to keep it contained to the city, which right there, that's pretty much a solid gold premise.
Mm-hmm.
But the best part is that it lives up to it.
Right.
And
yeah, it's so good.
I know, Iro, you called it from the beginning that this was going to be pretty good. So what do you like about it so far?
It's got a lot of style. It moves fast and doesn't get bogged down in anime cliches too much. It's just a bunch of like action. The cinematography and soundtrack are really good too.
Mm-hmm.
Like the director, the lady who did was it Kyosogega? Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Rie Matsumoto.
Yeah.
I never saw Kyosogega, but the show's really, really pretty looking.
Yeah, Kyosogega is pretty pretty too.
It's got good timing, good framing.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got a cool name.
Yep. Zap, Dick Suckrut. Still need to see Zed O'Brien, huh?
Yeah.
He might be next week, right?
No, it
Possibly.
doesn't look like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to hang out with Stephen A. Starface.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had one episode where they had the office party. Was that last week or the week before? I think it was
2 weeks ago. It's the vampire episode.
I want to go to their office party.
Oh yeah.
Drink Blur Moon.
Blur Moon.
Yeah, definitely. As far as the directing goes, it's very cinematic and some really creative stuff in there. I keep thinking of this one shot in the alien space chess or whatever episode where they're walking down the hall, but they're like walking like the shot is like them walking sideways, like they're you kind of have to see it for it to make sense, but they're like walking sideways like down the side of the screen.
Right.
And basically the whole shot is like rotated 90 degrees. And as they keep walking, like once they get to the bottom, the camera pans down and then it gets to like the door that they're walking to and everything is like right side up again. And it's like really cool stuff.
So stylish.
Yeah. What was cool with that is like it was an episode that didn't have a lot of action to it, but they did stuff like that to keep it visually interesting the whole way.
Right.
But
and I just really love the premise itself. Like, you know, it's basically Ugly Americans, if you ever heard of that show. But it's if Japan decided to make Ugly Americans. Because, like, Ugly Americans is this show, or it was a show on Comedy Central, about, like, basically the same premise that like monsters suddenly flood into New York City and then like become integrated into America. And like, you know, in that show they basically made it like a faux office where they live in like the like an integration or social services office that deals with the monsters. And in this, they're in like, you know, they're a bunch of fighters. They're just like beating up these random monsters or giant train monster things. It's all pretty great. I got
Pretty good show.
same premise as Ugly Americans, like 1,000 times better execution though.
Huh? Yeah, I've heard that title before, but I didn't know that it had anything to do with monsters or whatever. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, there's also a Pathway to Hell in that show too.
There's still Central Station.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in Blood Blockade Battlefront. That was in one of the episodes where, yeah, that was pretty cool. They can literally just take a subway to hell. Or that one they drove, right?
Yeah, they drove into hell. There's a subway just to get around Manhattan, and that's the one that'll give you like a 12% chance of living, right?
Right. So like it's like the real New York City subway.
Right.
Maybe a bit safer.
Maybe probably safer. Yeah. I know. It's just as someone from New York. I don't live in the city, but you know I've been in the city enough to know the details have been great on it. I mean, obviously there's a lot of creative license because there's like aliens hanging out and stuff, but little things like getting the car license plates from 2009 correct, and the subway looked exactly like the subway, and
there's a like map on the wall in episode 2 or something, and I went and looked it up on Google Maps, and like all the stuff is correct, just like labeled with different versions of the same words.
Yeah, they did a lot of kudos to the research team on that one. Now, when we first started watching it and seeing the promos, we were all comparing it to like Drara or Bakano. Do you think that's kind of panned out now that the show's?
I think it's still got some of that.
Is it still a valid comparison?
I think it's not exactly valid because like it does a better job of having this large cast but keeping it contained. Like there's these people on the periphery, like Patrick in the Office Party in the vampire episode, and you know it shows that this organization is much bigger than just the group, but it still allows them to focus on just Leo and the other major members of Libra,
right?
Instead of like where Bakano or Durara, you're bouncing from this person to this person to that person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool thing. How we don't know. It looks like there's like hundreds of members, to the team, and you know they don't, but they still stay focused on the main team, and them working together. So yeah, I thought that was kind of cool because we're so used to, I think, seeing the small ragtag band of freedom fighters. It's kind of cool to see like this big organization or whatever that's actually the good guys and not secretly evil or something. At least not as far as we know yet. Yeah, so definitely if you watch one show this season, that is the one to check out. I think we'd all probably agree on that.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty cool show.
Moving along, so we have the two big returning shows we mentioned at the beginning. Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. This is the second season, and I haven't been watching it. I feel like I should be, but
I mean it's some fate.
Yeah.
It's good if you've never seen it before, like me.
Yeah,
like obviously there's some things that like Fate Stay Night is so in the zeitgeist of at least among otaku that it's hard to avoid all spoilers, but I still think I've been enjoying this as like my first taste of what the original game was actually like, the story at the very least.
Right.
Mm.
And I've been liking it. I mean, there's some boring episodes, but not every. I mean, unless you're Blood Blockade Battlefront, not every episode's going to be a winner, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the adaptation goes, Iro, has it been pretty faithful to the visual novel?
Yeah, and maybe too faithful in some spots. Like, so the visual novel has like the 3 roots, and you got to play them in order. But since Unlimited Blade Works is a second route, like they'll have lines that refer to stuff you should know already from Fate Route and stuff like that. But then Fate Zero from 2012, that adaptation, since Fate Zero kind of applies to all three routes, it gets weird when you're like, you should know this thing, but half the watchers only watch Fate Zero, and so they don't know the thing, and it's confusing. Or it's like comes across as a waste of screen time because you don't have the other two routes to as like a companion for the story.
Yeah, I know, because I think I only watched maybe the first 5 or 6 episodes, so I'm like way behind. But I remember, because my only experience with Fate Stay Night, I did watch Fate Zero, but my only experience with Fate Stay Night was the original Dean series. And it was the original Dean series. I saw the Unlimited Blade Works movie, and I read a whole lot of stuff on Wikipedia, but I never played the original visual novel.
Right.
So somewhere in like the first 2 or 3 episodes of this, when it was all the school life stuff and some of the periphery characters that I don't think were in the original Dean one, that I was just like,
they
who are
were,
these people?
but like they only made cameos.
Yeah, like
because they're totally unimportant.
Right. So I feel like even though I didn't read the visual novel, I can probably tell what you're talking about. Where
it's like slavish adherence to, we gotta show this stuff that had totally happened, but nobody cares that it happened.
And now I've heard they've also added, I've heard some pretty cool anime original stuff, right?
Yeah, it's been decent. It's mostly the character stuff that they add, like, or scenes where nobody was around to see them in the visual novel. I think the big one was probably the battle early on where Rin and Ilya fight, because like the visual novel and stuff, they spend so much time talking about how Ilya is totally strong as master, you guys, and then she never does anything.
Oh, so that entire fight doesn't happen in the game?
Nope, that's all new.
Yeah, I think they did some of that in Fate Zero, right, when they let Irisviel fight at some point.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that was in Fate Zero.
Oh, that was okay. I thought that was original with the magic falcon thing or whatever.
And are you talking about Ilya?
Yeah.
When she fights with the little dove things?
Yeah. Yeah. That was new.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's at least still pretty.
Yeah, it is very pretty. It has ridiculous budget.
Fate Stay Night Unlimited budget works.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
basically.
I definitely want to catch up with that someday, because I do like the series. I guess I'll just have to power through the school stuff in the beginning. But and as I was watching it, I did remember watching the original Dean series. It was kind of like that too, where it didn't really take off until,
it's just Fate Stay Night, I guess. Spend forever walking around school introducing characters who don't matter.
Maybe I just realized Fate Zero is better.
It's kind of better.
That might be a different discussion for another day. Moving along, the other big show returning, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. We're still in Stardust Crusaders, right?
Still.
And is this like the last season of Stardust Crusaders?
Yes, totally is.
Okay, so we're
going to start fighting Vanilla Ice next week.
Okay, and I'm assuming that it has not changed and is pretty much continuing to be JoJo.
It's JoJo. It's getting to the point for me, I don't know, as like, my first time seeing this stuff. Yeah, like, I just liked the first 2 arcs for... The stakes just seemed so much more real, because they wouldn't always get their way and people would die in the first 2 arcs. And now we're in this arc and like everyone's so super powered, and like, Jotaro is this unstoppable killing machine, Like, I mean, I'm still enjoying it, but I'm enjoying it for just being a dumb fighting show more than any kind of story. Because I felt like,
Yep.
what's the second one called?
Battle Tendency.
Battle Tendency. I felt Battle Tendency actually had a pretty good story for a shoujo, or I mean, not a shoujo, a shonen battle.
Cars
Shoujo,
Senpai.
Shoujo Joseph Joestar. Well, I don't know. They did have that one part where he dresses up like a woman, right?
Yeah,
That did happen.
that was hilarious.
That's
That's
as a
too.
woman,
Like,
to sneak into a Nazi base in Mexico.
I mean, at the
So I
very
can
least, that
kill
is something
Ultimate
it's
Life
kept.
Form.
It's still stayed really funny.
Yeah. Well, the Stardust Crusaders is basically the part where they're establishing all the battle shonen manga.
The stand magic, or whatever you call it.
Tropes, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Famous one.
Yeah.
Everybody knows part 3.
But yeah, I guess that'll be exciting to. I might pop in for the final battle because even I know about the final battle at this point. One of the most famous.
I only know about the power. I don't know how the
Yeah.
battle actually goes.
One of the most famous final battles of all time. So that's kind of exciting. Okay, so Jojo, still Jojo, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And moving on, we have the latest from Kyoto Animation, Sound Euphonium. This is Kyoani goes back to Girls in a Band, except it's concert band instead of a pop rock band. And as expected, it's gorgeous and cute and sweet and so far kind of inconsequential.
Yeah, like there's only 2 reasons I can think of for possibly wanting to watch this show at this point. Either you are so into the Kyoani Moe scene that you'll like eat up anything they make, or you've been in a concert band for a long time. Because they do get a lot right about like what being in a high school concert band can be like, especially in one that's not, a big competitive school. One that just has a bunch of people that like to play for fun, and some of them that don't even like practice properly.
Is it more or less inconsequential than Tamako Market?
I'd say less inconsequential because they're at least working towards a goal, whereas Tamako Market never. Well, I mean, there was that goal of like we need to find the prince a wife, but it was always just an excuse to have like that stupid bird be around, right?
Yeah, they're not sitting around eating cake. At least they're actually doing stuff.
Yeah, they're actually playing their instruments, and there's a little bit of an actual like style coming into it. Like I was talking about last episode, I don't know if you remember this, but there's like Nichijou faces kind of going into it, and like definitely not typical KyoAni character modeling when they get flustered or when they have like a very strong emotion.
Right. Yeah, I saw the screen caps. I haven't seen the latest episode, but I watched because the latest one was episode 4, right?
Yeah.
I watched the first 3, and I like the characters. Just the whole band thing is not really doing it for me, because that is, and I mean I appreciate that they're actually doing stuff and not just sitting around eating cake.
Right.
But yeah, it's another one where it's like I kind of enjoyed it. I like the main girl. She kind of has, a little bit of depth to her. She can be happy and sad, and she's not just,
she's not crazy like Yui or Chitanda.
She has a certain realistic
or Tamako
attitude toward her a little bit, but yeah, but it's just not very exciting.
Yeah, and I can see that.
Hot glasses senpai though, right?
Oh right, she's great. Asuko is definitely like one of the best parts about that show.
She was the best part because but she has the the interesting, crazy personality.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'll probably keep up with it eventually, but it hasn't been at the top of my to watch list. But probably one of their. I mean, KyoAni hasn't been. I haven't really liked a lot of their shows over the past 2 years, and it's probably
maybe it's because they suck.
This is probably their best show since Chutu at this point.
Yeah, the level of quality seems.
It's not high praise.
Hey, we gave that. What was it like? Number
That was
4
number
or
2.
something. Oh, that was number 2
series
Damn.
of 2012, I think, right? Or
Yeah, and it sucked.
Yeah, but
Second season blew chunks, but yeah.
Yeah, let's not talk about the second season ever again.
Right.
We'll have to share. Me and Marlin invented a 0 to 10 Kyoto Animation show scale.
All right.
I'd have to look it up what we rated it, but 0 on the scale was it was Chu 2, right?
Chu 2 season 2.
Yeah,
I believe our scale went the 10 was Hyoka.
10 was Nichijou.
10 was Nichijou.
9 was Hyoka.
9 was Hyoka. Then was it 8 was Chu 2?
The first season.
Yeah, the first season. And I think I put it right underneath that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Point is, 0 was season 2 of
Oh god, yeah.
Heard it here, folks. They think Euphonium's better than Full Metal Panic.
Well, we
I've never seen Full Metal Panic, so
we made our scale post Haruhi exclusively.
Oh right, post Haruhi.
Yeah. So you can't catch us on that technicality.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, even basically since Chunibyo season 1, a lot of their shows. I mean, you had Beyond the Boundary and so bad. I will still defend Tamako Market to a certain degree, especially after watching the movie.
It's definitely a show that was good at what it did, and it was being dumb and cute.
Yeah, and
I'm not judging it for that.
The movie was actually pretty good and actually wrapped everything up, which was surprising. Wow. So I actually did kind of like that. But other than that, all the other shows, I guess everybody says Free is good, but I haven't quite watched that. And I think that's primarily by their side studio or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, so Sound Euphonium, pretty solid. We'll have to see if it ever pans out to anything. But not too bad. And then finally, last on the list is what's probably my second favorite show of the season, Yamada-kun and the Seven Witches. And so this one, to me, feels like a throwback to some of the comedies from 10 years ago or something, from a simpler, more innocent time.
Of looking at people's dicks.
At kissing people and swapping bodies and looking at their underwear. But yeah, basically it's about this. Yamada-kun is the school delinquent, and he accidentally kisses this girl who's a quiet honor student, and they swap bodies, and hilarity and other things ensue after that. Sounds like a dumb premise, and it kind of is, but I think it's very well written, and I like the characters. The characters have a little bit of depth to them.
Oh yeah, I think they do a lot with what little their premise. It's kind of like Kokoro Connect, where by all intents and purposes, Kokoro Connect should not have been a good show, but they did a lot with their premise that made it go beyond just being body swapping, and I think they did kind of the same thing here.
Yeah, and we should note that there is more than just body swapping, but we'll just leave it at that.
Right.
That's kind of the first thing that pops up. But unlike Kokoro Connect, it is definitely more of a comedy too. There's not a lot of... There are some kind of serious bits to it, but it's mostly...
Definitely outweighed by the comedy.
Yeah, it's definitely primarily a comedy. But I guess the really only big asterisk that goes on it is the fan service, which is not really super bad, but the fact that it's even there feels really out of place sometimes.
Yeah. This episode was pretty bad, the newest one.
Yeah, because they had the Hot Springs episode, and it could have been so much worse, but at the same time, the show is good enough where it doesn't need to rely on that kind of thing.
What I do like is that instead of, how, I don't know, your typical scumbag protagonist in a light novel would have been oh man, I get to see these girls naked. But no, he looked for the girls so that he wouldn't have to be with them, because I imagine he felt like it would be super awkward. Yeah,
I did appreciate that too. So in this episode, he swaps bodies with the girl, and they're all going to go to the bath house or whatever, the hot springs or bathhouse or whatever. And like Marlin said, most other anime quote-unquote heroes would be like, yes, I get to go see all the girls naked, but he actually tried to go find the girl and switch back, like you should do in that situation. But
right. It's like it has all these good parts juxtaposed right next to the good parts. Like in this episode, when he tries to kiss the girl, and he starts to hesitate, and then she actually does like commiserate the kiss. So it felt super weird up to that point because he was still like forcing himself on her, but then he couldn't kind of go through with it.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
like,
it has that.
He's not like a total scumbag.
There's a certain level of restraint to it still. It's not just, people running around and groping each other. And
right.
Yeah. But the bits that are in there, the bits of fan service and whatnot, just feel like it's there because they needed to be there to sell the manga or something. And
yeah.
I think I said in my last post, I just want to go to the author and say, it's okay. You don't have to do this. You're good enough. You don't need this.
Right.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to where that's going. It's actually got a nice. I like the romance element to it.
Oh yeah. It's really cute.
The way they incorporate that. It's not like the total main focus, but it's kind of nicely worked in there, and just entertaining show to watch overall. It looks really nice. I keep saying Leiden Films is the new Dogakobo.
Just says Dogakobo was the new KyoAni.
Yeah, and I've had my eyes on them since their shorts that we covered with Ira and Miss Monochrome.
All right.
When they're at their best, they're like right up there with Dogakobo as far as the quality. They kind of have a similar style too, so and it's consistently been really nice quality. So definitely, if you're into the anime comedies, that's probably the best one this season. I'm really enjoying that one. Okay, so I think we're at the end of our list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, dude, there were a few shows this season.
Yeah, we covered quite a bit, and there's definitely a few good ones worth watching in there. I guess to wrap up, I'll just ask you guys, just pick a couple shows. What do you think the ones that are definitely worth watching? Maybe Ira, we'll start with you.
Watch Blood, Blockade, Battlefront. It's probably the best show of the season, and by probably I mean definitely. It's good, and I mean, I would say Faith Day Night and JoJo, but you're already watching those if you want to watch those at this point.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing for JoJo. Like, if you were going to watch that, you should be watching it. But if you're not watching it, JoJo is still a really good series. And I feel like, I mean, as much as I had a complaint, it's still a really funny, like, shonen battle show. And as predictable as it is, it at least keeps the entertainment up enough to make that, like, acceptable, I guess. And then definitely Blockade, Battlefront, and Yamada-kun. So those two shows are just so good at what they do.
Yeah, those two are definitely my favorites.
All right, and My Love Story.
Yeah, and I'd throw in My Love Story.
That in there.
I would say of the new shows, those three are the must-watch. Couple other ones have their ups and downs. You can probably decide for yourself if it's something that you're going to like or not. But for those three, I think pretty much anybody could check out and enjoy. I probably didn't do a good enough job selling Mikagura School Suite, but maybe it doesn't deserve it. That's okay.
We'll find out.
All right, so I think that about wraps it up, guys. Thanks for joining in on the podcast. Hopefully for everybody listening, if you haven't checked out any of these shows, that'll give you some kind of idea of what to watch. And I guess we'll catch everybody next time.
Bye.
Later.